Your club, TS Galaxy, haven't had a great start to this season. Number 15, 3 matches, all losses. Are you worried? Are you panicking?
No, I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. I'm sure you'd attest to that.
But you've been selling a lot of players. Are you a selling club? Bo Mutusi, Bo Given, Bo over the years, Bo Peter.
Yeah, sure. We've become that club, to be honest. So when
Does that not affect the coach? If you were nominated, you were voted into, are you ready?
it's not necessarily an ambition. You know, I'm a corporate lawyer. I've been in law. I've worked for the top law firms, and I have my BProc, 3 LLB, and Master of Laws from UCT. I cannot just wake up now and say I have an ambition to lead football. No, I will take heed to the call of football, you know, when it gets to me.
Do you see yourself as a troublemaker?
By doing what?
Welcome to Sunday World Engage, a platform where we discuss and engage with the who's and who of South Africa in terms of business, in terms of sports, in terms of politics, and in terms of entertainment. Today we are honored to have Mr. Tim Sukazi coming in as our guest. He's one of the most well-known football administrators, up and coming, and one of the young who are breaking through into this difficult world of football administration. Pratim, welcome, and we are honored to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Mukwena. Ralebo.
Yeah, I'm not seeing your drum, iskupu sako. I thought uzovula ngeskupu sako and give us a drum beat.
Yeah, well, there's a fee that is being charged for it. So, okay, we haven't generated an invoice. Next time we'll do it, don't worry.
Tell me about that. It's not common for a club chairman to be going around in the scoop, a drum, beating it, and then dancing and having fun with his supporters and stuff. Is it a new trend?
Well, I won't say it's a new trend, but I'm proud to say I'm leading this kind of a movement or direction because you know, Mr. Mukwena, that we are human beings first before any titles or achievements. That's what we ascribe to at TS Galaxy. So the mere fact that I might be the founder of the club, the its chairperson and president, it matters not when coming to interacting or at least giving kind consideration to the spirit of humanity, which in my view is required by the sport. So at TS Galaxy, you know, our titles really don't matter. With that notion, I am able to also interact with our supporters, who are the most important stakeholders of the game, by the way. So that affords me the opportunity, obviously, to gather their mood, their spirit, their emotion, and generally their views as well, because we engage a lot. They've got a lot to advise on, which I take heed to, you know. So that's us at TS Galaxy. And for sure, it will be very interesting to see if any other club chairman in the world, not in South Africa only, or club president, I'm sure you haven't seen this happening anywhere in the world, as you have indicated, not only in SA.
Why I say maybe is this a trend, because we see also Sean Mkhize, sitting with the fans, engaging with the fans during matches, not being in the VIP box and stuff, and being part of the supporters and engaging with them.
Yeah.
Is it a new way of doing things?
Well, I don't know. I won't necessarily say it's a new way. It depends on individuals. Yeah, you know, and how it's being done also depends on an individual. Yeah, I don't recall also seeing Mkhize, you know, anywhere in the VIP box, which is great. I see her with her people all the time. You know, that is also great because she's somewhere there about the grandstand. You know, it depends on the individual and your preferences and what you envisage, you know, within your institution. So at TS Galaxy, we are We are sure that we are building an institution of life. There's no doubt about it, which then should breathe life into people's lives. You know, people must look at us and draw a high level of inspiration. They must look at our work and draw a high level of inspiration. That, in our humble opinion, cannot happen remotely or from a far distance. We need to be there with the people, for the people.
We've seen you beating that drum hard and loud, and sometimes getting you into trouble as well. We've seen you being accosted by security guards at Orlando. We've seen you fighting security at Cape Town. I think was it Athlone or Stellenbosch and stuff. And then with you and your drum, your connection with that.
Yeah, look, it wasn't necessarily a fight. The Orlando thing was a different one. We were being barred from entering, our change room. I lead our change room in all material respects. There's no one who can stop me from doing it. I did it. I eventually gained access. I'll always do it. We pray. I lead the prayer. So that's standard to us. At Athlone it was a misunderstanding, to be honest. They just didn't know. Not necessarily Athlone, it was at Gutenberg, now it's known as Danny Craven Stadium. Yeah, apparently for some reason they said, our brass band isn't allowed because it's making noise. I found it very bizarre. It was very absurd. I think those people or the securities were ill-informed, about certain elements of the game. So at least we had the opportunity to educate them a bit, which we did. And we managed. The day eventually went through smoothly.
Do you see yourself as a troublemaker or pushing the envelope a little bit?
By doing what? By doing what? By interacting with the supporters, by carrying my drum, music goes with football. So drum is part of music. So I cannot see any trouble there unless a person really is in an imbecile state of mind would want to believe so. But otherwise, it's utter nonsense.
Tell us your affiliation with the Ndebele people.
That's where my parental home is. I am of Ndebele blood. You may not know. So my blood surname is Nduli. So as we pronounce it in Ndebele. So ngingumhlalukwana, ngingukabaqongo, umbondela nelanga. Hlobo emamba sinanja sawohlabathi siduda nabakhokazi enhloni ezimuke nomoya. So ngimloyo. But then this became a late discovery, of course, in my life when I eventually came across my blood father. And then surprise, my paying homage to our people in KwaNdebele, it started way before I even knew, obviously, my blood surname, which is Unuli. I always held the view that the people of KwaNdebele, one, they love the game. Two, they have got talent in their own right. We have seen, good players, great players coming out of the Ndebele tribe. And therefore, TS Galaxy being a club from that region, originating from there, at least I thought, given the Ndebele people being a minority and them not having had the opportunity of having their own professional football club since the advent of democracy, it is very important, that wherever I am, whatever we do in football, I would always pay homage to my people, and this is what I'm doing.
Tim, many of you have had this conversation before. 2 years ago, I think it was 2022, we spoke about you've never hidden your ambition when it comes to one day leading the PSL and stuff. And in November, there's that electoral congress. Would you step up if you were called upon, if you were nominated, you were voted into? Are you ready?
Look, it's not necessarily an ambition, to be honest on its own. Otherwise, I'm good where I am. I'm a corporate lawyer. I've been in law. I've worked for the top law firms. I came out at Bowman's. I became a partner there, coming from the junior ranks, being in the corporate acquisitions department and all that. So I've seen big things from a corporate law point of view. I've done capital market transactions. I am what I am, and I have my B Property 3 LLB and Master of Laws from UCT. So I cannot just wake up now and say I have an ambition to lead football. No, I will take heed to the call of football, when it gets to me in that manner. And as you've alluded to, people don't put themselves in positions, they get voted into those positions. If football is valuing my credentials, for some odd good reason, with all legal background that I've just explained, I just happen to have been in football. So I've always had two careers parallel to each other at the same time, which is an abnormal. So I come a long way with the game of football, having played, having come up whilst I was qualifying myself as a lawyer, serving my articles, started representing players and so forth and so on. And I've went out of my way to find the best talent, in the hoods. And found players from nowhere who end up playing international football for Bafana, FIFA Confederations Cup, and so forth and so on. So it's not only of what I can do by virtue of my training as a lawyer, but it's things that I've done at grassroots. I've been almost to every township in the country looking and finding talent, villages in all regions. I can say, show me one probably football person or who's high up there who would have done that. Probably won't find any. I've been there, I've walked in the streets of Kaeli, Chakukuletu, Zwelichai, by anywhere and everywhere, Baba, Mtata, and you can imagine, anywhere and everywhere, Nongoma, KZN, I've done that. So, with that, but also I happen to have those kind of credentials, which, in my humble opinion, the game requires. Anyone who's sound out there, obviously of a sober mind, will look into this and probably think that a person who carries both, kind of credentials, better even from a corporate law point of view, which football never had, probably would come and serve the game better. And of course, I did the impossible by transitioning myself from strict player management into a club establishment and ownership. Now the club is at the highest level of the game. We are now in our 5th season, in the Premier Division. So again, that has never been done by anyone in the country. There are renowned agents, the Mike Macabs, whoever you can name them, but none of them has managed this kind of transition. It's not an easy one. It's no mean feat by any stretch of imagination. So I managed to do that. Not even then, I don't look at myself and say, I'm beating my own drum here. No, it's by the grace of God, by the way. He's got a purpose for all of us. So with that said, if football calls upon me, for sure, I'm in the game anyway. I would come and add value, and contribute. It's all about contribution for the betterment of our game, for the advancement of our game in South Africa and most likely in the continent.
Hypothetically speaking, if we were to be called upon, what kind of meaningful contribution would you do to advance or take our football forward, or what needs to be done?
Yeah, so I've got this unique hybrid top level of experience, as I've explained. I would say anywhere in that executive board or in the executive committee of the league, as per the current structure or how it's drafted, the league documents or the handbook are currently drafted. I think that would be the first step, obviously. And then, of course, come in, roll my sleeve, dirty my hands.
When you say first step, do you want to elaborate more?
Yeah, well, it's a first step. It's very important. People sometimes they become too far ahead of themselves, and they think they can come on day one and probably serve at the ultimate pinnacle point. Most of the time, it's not possible because you must allow yourself, regardless of your credentials, the opportunity to be infused in the system by the system. Learn, because the fact doesn't change that I haven't been there. So I'm sure there's a lot that one stands to learn. It's a question of how quick. Obviously, given where I am and who I am, chances are I will be a fastest learner. you know. So that will benefit the game. But then as time goes by, and when that need comes, probably some years down the line, and then I'm called upon to lead the league, depending on the circumstances. And at that point in time, I would most likely, having served in the executive committee, I would most likely be in an even better position. It doesn't mean that one cannot do it. I mean, I serve at boards, state and entities, and you don't get any prior training. When you are a lawyer called upon, you say, this is your CV, this is what you see, this is what you have done, and then come and serve on this board. Then you do it, and in those boards you chair, you lead committees, you chair those boards and stuff like that. So I've seen those movies before, and if the game calls on me, then I'll do it. If it doesn't, no problem. I'm happy where I am.
Do you think the structure is working? The POG and then even the PSL Exco?
I think this can be a topic for the future, to be honest. It will be premature for anyone to pronounce on it right now. It can be a topic for the future. Structures in organizational setup, organograms are being reviewed time and again, and it cannot take one person to pronounce on it now. As time goes by, as organizational structures are being reviewed, supposed to be reviewed, when that time comes, whenever, probably, and different considerations and input are given and made, then those in charge at the time will take every consideration into account, and then if anything comes out different, that will be that.
I'll tell you why I'm asking that question. I think it was early last year, you were vocal and had spoken about saying the league needs an independent CEO.
Look,
not maybe someone who's also owning a club and who's also a member of the POG.
Yeah. Look, those views obviously were also informed by circumstances or prevailing circumstances at the time. But the fact remains, the CEO, for example, if you are pinpointing there will always be a need for there to be a CEO. So the question as to whether they should own the club, they shouldn't own the club, whatever the case may be, these are the things I'm saying. Those things can be considered into the future. It might have happened that way back then. Probably I raised concerns in relation to that. Yeah, but the truth of the matter is, once you are in it and you are seized with matters, you will apply your mind, and that can only happen in the future, not necessarily today, now, by me. Those in charge, whenever 5, 8 years down the line or 10 years down the line, may just look at things probably differently. But as matters stand now, we have been in this situation where our CEO is the CEO who has a club. And in all fairness, I think, she, in my view, I think she has accomplished a lot for the league. And it's unfortunate that we still regard her as the acting CEO. I think, in my view, she it's just the word acting. She is well seasoned, she's got experience, she's very seasoned, she has seen the worst and the best, of our football situation. All she would need going forward probably is the support, and I'll be the first one to say that expression acting needs to be removed.
Do you have any misgivings?
About what in particular?
The CEO or the office?
No, absolutely nothing at all. We are colleagues in the game. I think we hold utmost respect for each other. And most importantly, I think we've done wonders. We've achieved a lot of things together. Some of the things are not documented. I can illustrate, for example, TS Galaxy found itself having to play a final at Moses Mabhida Stadium against Stellenbosch. So meaning that two clubs that are not from the region of KZN were to play in the 60 capacity velodrome. The chances were that final was going to be empty. There would be no supporters, and it wouldn't have been good for the sponsors to start with, as opposed when maybe our sister club Orlando Pirates or Kaizer Chiefs play there, or even Sundown. So in that situation, the CEO and myself had to come in and work very closely and be very creative and inventive, so as to avoid, the state of disaster. You don't want a final that is played in front of an empty stadium. For a sponsor like that, a new sponsor it was a new cup, the first version of the Culling Black Label knockout competition. So that week we were hard at work and we came up with creative ideas. Guess what? The stadium was filled to about 50% capacity, with those two clubs. So I'm just illustrating the point that it's a person that through me having come into the highest level of the game and with certain achievements, we have come together and worked together. And in every instance where we worked together, we haven't failed. We achieved anything that we wanted to achieve.
And the league is in good hands, under the leadership of, Dr. Ivan Khoza, Dr. Kaizer Motaung, but is there a succession plan when one day they have to pass on the baton?
I think I'm not the right person to answer the question of a succession plan. I can attest to what you said, that the league is in good hands, has been in good hands for many years. Dr. Khoza, Dr. Motaung, and many others who worked and supported them, they've done wonders for our football. We now have a league that is run as a viable business, profitable business, tens of billion rand plus, per annum. All that having been achieved from ground zero, so to speak, in the course of time. So it's not the easiest thing to do for anyone. I think these two gentlemen and everyone else who had the opportunity to support them positively, they've done wonders for our game. Probably if it were not for their efforts, we wouldn't be where we are today. We stand proudly as South African football to say we have a very, very good league, a viable league, competitive league. We have a league that can produce a high standard of football and which then produces players that can represent a country. We were the only country in the African Nations Cup 2024 whose squad was comprised of about 96-97% of local players, and the same squad with the local players who are playing in Africa, being South Africa, would then go and beat a Morocco, eliminate them, who had a squad or still has a squad that is made up of players who play for Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain, you name them, top clubs in Italy and so forth and so on. So these things don't come cheap and easy. Someone and many other people would have worked very hard towards that. And Dr. Khoza and Dr. Motaung have always been at the forefront. So it's heads off from me to them, with what they've achieved for football, not only today now, but for future generations. I think they have made an indelible mark in our game. And, we are very lucky and blessed as African football to be served by them.
What about calls to bring in young blood into the administration, maybe to be groomed by the two gentlemen?
Yeah, look, so we would be expecting too much from them if we were to say they need to anoint people. They can't. They are there. They are giving their best of what they can offer to the game, and they've done that with a high level of distinction. So I don't think they have powers of anointment as such, and neither do I believe that their positions are hereditary. So because they are different human beings and they have their own skill sets, and which caused us to achieve as a holistically, collectively as South African football, what we have achieved to this date. The process of bringing, whether you call it young or new blood or people, it's a process and it's not dictated by them. Why? Because it's contained in the statute. So you have already asked me about the upcoming general elections of the league and the league executive per se. So that's the process. So that's not them. You see, they are restricted and they are working within the confines of the legislative prescripts of the league. So which prescripts dictate a process that needs to be followed, which is why these elections are up and coming. And everything will come out. It will have to come out in the wash. You know, whoever comes out, it comes out. If there are new people, then probably it will fall within your characterization as a young blood or faces or new faces. You know, it's not necessarily them that will sit and anoint and say, you, and this person and the other person. You know, it will be through the legislative process of the league.
Can you expect them to continue after these elections, considering age and where they are now?
Well, age, there's a saying out there that age is anything but a number. You know, so if they feel that they've got the energy and the power, mental stealth to serve the game, why would anyone say no? Because they've already served the game with distinction. So everyone who would have done so with distinction, you would always wish that they are forever there. You know, so it's all dependent. It becomes a personal call. They will have to look into their own situation. They know themselves more than we, the world, think that we know them. We may judge from a distance or judge from what we see in the book that the person is so many years old or whatever the case may be. But then sometimes it does happen that a 70-year-old person is in the body of a 30-year-old. Who knows? You know, it depends on the level of energy, the sharpness of the mind, and also their body, if they still carry the demands and the workload and so forth and so on. So they can only advise. You know, if they come up and say they want to continue to serve the game, man, it can only be for the benefit of football. It can't be anything else. And their work is there for everyone to see, you know. So there can be no doubt about it. And as football, we'll have to support it. But then equally so, if they say, no, we've done our part, then again, we'll have to support that decision and without protesting and so forth and so on. It will be a very difficult one, you know, for anyone to think that they can come cheaply and easily and fill their shoes. No, these would be one of the biggest and largest shoes for any human being to want to fill. You know, it's going to take some doing for any person to deliver that level.
At the Betway Premiership sponsorship launch, the prize monies and the trophies were not announced and stuff. Are you, as club owner or club owners, comfortable that this thing will be sorted out? And since you don't know for how much you are playing for, are you sure that you are comfortable that this thing will be sorted out?
Yeah, I would want to believe that all clubs in the league, from a TS Galaxy point of view, all clubs in the league would and should have the will and power to serve the game, you know, for anything, to be honest. If it turns out that the prize money is R0, so be it. What would have happened, the winner would have played 30 matches, and so is the second position, third, fourth, and all other positions, you know, which would then have been enjoyed by our people, who should then have prepared our national teams and. So, with that, I mean, you know, much as the money or the knowledge of the actual prize money is something important, but then we should also equally so and say, you know, we will do it for the game, whatever that's there, we will be satisfied by it. Which is why I'm sure you haven't seen this issue being escalated in the market. You know, I don't recall of any one club in the league complaining about it as such. Clubs have been there, and I think they are satisfied that there will be some prizes, and they will be what they are, depending obviously on what's there in the kitties or in the coffers of the league. You know, and then right now the league is sustaining the clubs, by the way, with the monthly grants. This is what matters the most at this moment in time, than the prize money at the end of the 30 round of matches. So clubs are being sustained by the league.
Is it the same grant as from last season?
Yes, yes, it's the same amount of grant. So it's the 2 million rand grant, so which sustains the clubs, or at least contributes towards the sustenance of the clubs. because obviously 2 million rands can never be enough, not at the level of our game.
And tell me, how far does that 2 million go in terms of you as a club?
It depends on the structure of each club, obviously. In our case, it does get somewhere. It helps us a lot, I must admit. But then at the same time, obviously, if you look at our structure, we've got 3 UEFA Pro licensed coaches, maybe 800 of it or something would have been taken immediately, and then you're left with the players, technical team, administration staff, and many other things. You have to camp, you have to play, go fly, do all kind of things. So it does contribute. It goes a long way, in all honesty. Obviously, under the circumstances of the league and the demands of our game in South Africa, it cannot be enough, but at least it puts us somewhere. So it's up to the clubs to get themselves out there, secure sponsorships or whatever creative and other means, and make sure that they are self-sustainable, which is what we have been able to do, and many of our sister clubs in that league table have been able to do, and ultimately it is for the good of the game.
And how do you sustain a club without a main title sponsor?
Well, it depends who you are, where you stand in life, business, and many other things. So if you are an entrepreneur of good standing, great standing, if you've got other partners in some of your businesses, other than the club itself, all those kind of things, they would matter towards the sustenance of the club. But then to think that you can and you should do it strictly from what's there, which is a 2 million rand grant, you'll have a problem. And then if you're fortunate enough, of course, you would have a headline sponsor or partner, and you'll get whatever that they bring you. Clubs such as Kaizer Chiefs, Pirates, for example, they've got strong ones and big partners. Vodacom, they've been there for many years, so you can imagine the numbers are astronomical. And then Cape Town City, I'm sure they get way above 20 million rand from FNB. I think Golden Arrows now, they've got 10 beds. They also obviously doesn't come for nothing. It's very encouraging to see now there being some proliferation of corporate partners coming as headline partners to football clubs. It gives clubs such as Young TS Galaxy and many other of our sister clubs hope that as long as we work towards it, it shall happen at some point or another. Right now, let's punch, be it above or be below our weight. Let's keep on punching and serve the game to the best of our ability, because that day will come. Eventually, we will also, like others, lend a partner. All you need to do, these things don't just come overnight. You have to make sure that you are also in a good state of readiness. People look for many other things. Can you sustain yourself in the league? We have done it for 4 seasons. We are now in our 5th season, so that's a good sign. What else do you have there? And who's behind the club? What's their resume? What are their credentials and whatnot? People look at that. Governance and so forth. They don't want a situation where they'll throw 10 million at the club. The next thing they see the directors or main director rocking up in a Ferrari, for example. These are the type of things they wouldn't want to see happening. So you have to earn your stripes. It doesn't happen overnight, so we know that to many of our sister clubs it shall also happen. Yes, like I've made an example of Golden Arrows that have secured a partner, and surely others will keep on doing so. I think our sister club in KZN, Richards Bay, they have secured a partner. So things are promising, isn't it? Not only for them, but for all of us. Eventually we'll get there, and should at least 10 of the clubs in the table of the league, have partners, then the standard of the game obviously will take to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Your club, TS Galaxy, haven't had a great start to this season. Number 15, 3 matches, all losses. Are you worried? Are you panicking?
No, I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. I'm sure you'd attest to that. Yes, it is a faulty start, to be honest, and yes, it's a very difficult league, such that a faulty start of this sort, would cause concerns all round, supporters, people looking at the game, whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's the situation. But you know what? I always look at the composition of our squad. I always look at the composition of our technical team, and I have not one doubt that we have assembled a very good team, a team that should punch high up into the top 8 bracket, and you obviously have to look at how those matches were lost, how we played, and so forth and so on. And in our case, I think in those games we created enough opportunities to score more than our opponents. You know, we were beaten by an odd goal on 3 occasions. Had we taken our chances, obviously, and scored 2, we could have won all 3 anyway. So yeah, but then we didn't in those 3 games, and then that makes it easy for our team of analysts to look into that, and our coaching team, and try to rectify that. I'm sure in the next matches we'll start now hitting the net, and then from there it will be upon us, you know, to see how high we could rise.
You had a nice, decent off-season preparations. You had FC Augsburg coming to Nelspruit, Mbombela, and playing against those kind of players. And now the league starting with 3 losses. Do you think you had enough in terms of preparations of season?
Yes, in all honesty, you couldn't have asked for any more preseason time. Remember, after our top 8 match, then we took a break. I mean, we had another month, you know, before the start of the season, so a month and a half or something like that. Yeah, because the match was on the 4th, and we played our first game on the 16th of the next month. So there was more than enough time. Obviously, the stop-start was quite a disturbance of sorts, such that it became difficult to plan the program. But generally, from the start, you know, we had a very, very decent off-season. We had the opportunity to play a younger SC, FC Augsburg, Mbabane Swallows, you know, those are clubs in the Champions League, these 2 African clubs. And then, of course, FC Augsburg coming out from the German Bundesliga, and I'm sure you would have watched and seen the game. And you thought, when you looked at it, you thought we represented the country very, very well, and we have what it takes, you know. So, yeah, the start, it is what it is. It is what it has become. But then I don't think it's a clear definition of our path this season. Things will change. We have seen, I think, you know, if I recall, in 2006 to 06 to 07 season, if I'm not mistaken, or 05, 06, in the first 5 games, Orlando Pirates were rock bottom of the league table or log table. And some years during the start of Pitso Mosimane's tenure at Sundowns, was rock bottom of the log table, you know, and things tend, you know, things do change. As long as you can detect where the mistakes or the mishappenings could have been, and you correct those, things are bound to change. So I'm sure we are not an exception to that rule.
Have you spoken to your coach?
We speak every day. I speak every day.
What does he say?
It depends. So we speak about a whole number of matters, and so far as this situation is concerned, to be honest, he is also not concerned. He knows that it will turn. He sees the players every day, he sees them at training. I also do. And we know the composition of our squad, you know, so he's okay where he's at. Obviously, he wants that turnaround point to arrive sooner rather than later. That's all he wishes for, you know. So ultimately, he doesn't obviously play. On the day when players don't convert the chances and all that, you know, it becomes exactly what is beyond his control as a coach. He can give them all the tactics and everything. At the end of the day, is upon the players. But we do have a very, very decent squad, in my view, and he also knows that as much, and that's why probably he's not as concerned.
Does he not want to beef up his team?
To be honest, no, not from where we're at. We believe that our team is very, very balanced, very, very balanced. If you don't believe me, watch when we play this coming weekend on Sunday. We'll be playing our first match in the second version of the Carling Black Label knockout competition, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. The team is quite balanced. It's a question of us converting our chances and making the turnaround in the league matches.
But we've been selling a lot of players. Like a selling club. Bo Mutusi, Bo Given, Bo over the years, Bo Peter.
Yeah, sure. We've become that club, to be honest. So when
Does that not affect the coach?
Well, you would wish as a coach to always keep your best players each season and only improve, So it does destabilize progress when you, as a coach, you lose the best players in your squad because you don't have as much opportunity to only add on more quality players, but you have to replace. It makes it quite challenging. So our coach has been faced with that challenge, and players take time. Some players take time to adapt into new environments, new club, new coach, new coaching methods, new training methods. So we have been also subject of such. So our coach is well aware. I'm sure he would wish that we should, by now in our squad, would have Ventuari, would have given him Simang, would have been Batusi Ovas, and Melusi Telezi, Tsohofazo Nyama, Traore, who left for Europe, Teto, who also left for Livingston, although he's back on loan at Chipa and so forth. He would wish that those players are still there, but then the business model of our club, more especially without a headline partner, dictates that we dispose of our best assets, Mojela, Mojela this season, Sanoka this season, for example, we dispose of our best assets and re-inject, the returns into the club, and reinvest and try to reinforce from there. It's the most difficult model. I can challenge you. Last season we transferred 7 of our best players, all of whom had been on our starting 11 on many occasions. I would challenge you to tell any club, anyone in the league, to transfer 7 of their starting 11 and see if they won't struggle, in the following season. The chances are they will have a huge struggle. Because if you take an Ovas, Telezi, Msimango, Traore, Teto, Nyama, those type of players all at once, then you would have dismantled almost the team. The entire team, especially seeing that these players were in our starting 11. And now the challenge is to replace, and those replacements to hit the highest notch and then take the club to a higher position. We managed to achieve that last season. We end up in 6th position from 10th position, having disposed of 7. So this past season we transferred 3. Mojela, I think Sanoka, and Tuare, yes, to Kaiser Chiefs. Those were also the pillar, of our team. So they are gone. We had to replace them. Plus, so it means that in a span of 12 months, 13 months, we transferred about 10, 11 players all at once. So it's not the easiest thing. So it does really impair on the progression of the team. And our coaches are constantly faced with that challenge. That can only change once we've got partners or headline partners or sponsors. And of course, this is one model we saw the likes of Tottenham Hotspur applying. When they disposed of Gareth Bale, who was in a few others, they were that club over time, then they transitioned themselves into a club that does no longer necessarily sell. So it was 7 last season, 3 this season. Let's hope that we will reduce the transfers, next season to be lesser, because we also want to be that strong club that stays in the league, competes for all titles that are available.
So now you are saying that after 3 games and 3 losses, the coach is not going anywhere. But how long can he last if the situation doesn't improve or change and the results are not?
He can last as long as he needs to be honest. The lack of change in the situation has to be looked at carefully, and I've already explained that the reasons up to so far have nothing to do with coaching. We look at all the 3 games, we dominated. I think Richards Bay were on 77% possession, creating chances, not scoring. Chiba we dominated, at Supersport we dominated, so much so. So that cannot be a coaching situation, because we play our game, we stick to our philosophy. We're a very, very highly possession-based team, so we stick to that. We dominate on the ball, we create chances, we just don't convert them. It can never be a coaching matter. To put the ball in the net, that cannot be coached. We watched the MTN final. Do you think Mujela was coached that when that throw in is flicked over, you must spike it? No. Those things, you don't coach them. It's instinctive. The player has to have it and they have to do what they need to do at the time. So when players don't necessarily apply the right instinct at the key and critical moment of the game so as to convert a chance, then you don't have a score on the board and you lose a game. So we have been victims of our own circumstances, if I may put it that way, and which has nothing to do with coaching. If that continues, God forbid, in that manner, then there's no cause for a coach to leave. It can only be, in my humble opinion, when the coach cannot coach the team to play our game, to create the chances, and so forth and so on. And the margins have been thin. I mean, it's marginal losses by an odd goal on each of the three occasions. So you can see that had we been on our own good boots on the day, converted two in each of the games, we could have won the game.
You seem to have a close relationship with your coach, and I think you've known him personally before you employ him. What kind of a coach is Siad is, and what does it bring to the team?
Yeah, well, what does it bring to South African football? I think that's the bigger question. So in South African football, up to so far, he has produced players for the national team. Players like Obas, for example, if I may just use him as a yardstick, he's a player who has been there when the club was languishing there at the bottom, and he was not of national team material at the time or considered as such. So it took Siad Ramovic to arrive in the country and turn him into that. A player like Melu Sibutilis was our fourth choice when Siad Ramovic arrived. So no one would have ever thought that we'd get a national team call-up or given and so on. So that he has done for our game, which is great. And we need coaches, more especially foreign coaches, who will come and have a positive impact, not only to the team, but to our national team. So Siad Ramovic has done that. As a person, obviously he's got character. He's a coach that is clear on what he wants, how he wants it to be executed, and then generally he stands and defends, his principles, his beliefs in football, and so forth and so on. And he leads from the front. He's the first one to take responsibility, and is very, very bold. We need, those type of coaches, strict as he is, hard worker as he is, demanding as he is. Ultimately, it gives South African players that missing part, or that part that tends to miss most of the time. So our players, many have got the tendency of wanting or wishing to be lazy and be reliant more on their God-given talent. So a coach like this disregards that and wants you to add on the God-given talent and apply yourself in the game. So this is what a TS Galaxy player is being trained to do and is learning every day, and which is why you see youngsters rising into prominence. Pusho Ditejane, came, he had from Kansas, we took him from their reserves. He had never trained with their first team, by the way, and now he's a household name. Young Kavini, Pirates reserves, and now you see Sbanyo, and I'm sure others haven't seen him. You see those type of players. So in our squad already we have players born between 2005 and 2004, 6 of them. And so it is also a young squad, but these players are starting. Sibilibili 2002 is now almost accumulating about 100 matches. So is Macbeth Mashanga, the 2001 is now hitting a century of matches in the PSL. So we are also very much youth driven, but then you have to transition a player from a DDC level, NFD level into a top high-end PSL player takes some special doing from a coaching perspective.
And Siad's interactions and heated exchanges with Rulan Kwena last season.
I think
volatile character.
Well, I won't say volatile. I think it's a flavor that the game missed or is missing right now, obviously, and that has created some sort of good rivalry in addition to the Soweto derby between Sundowns and TS Galaxy. It has now become a match to watch for all concerned. You know, we needed that. We needed to have an alternative. So I think we've benefited in the country. And of course, what sort of sparked up the whole thing, obviously, was issues as they were raised by Mokoena, which were untruthful. We as a club, we also came forward. You know, remember. So not only our coach. So we will always defend our position. We wouldn't want to allow anyone to blemish our name. We work hard for what we are doing and what we want to achieve. And there's millions out there who are inspired by our work, who are looking at us. And therefore, we cannot allow any other person to just make some accusations which are unfounded and so forth and so on. I think that's what triggered the whole thing. You may recall, you know, when Coach Rulani way back then, you know, mentioned that he lost to us in the Carling Cup because Rono Nelom was not there, Mokoena was not there, Debucho, the right back, Mudau was not there. He mentioned Themba Zwane, mentioned all these players, that's why he lost, which was not the truth, because you'll recall before then we had beaten them at Loftus with all of them in the starting 11, and Siad couldn't obviously take that. He had to come and defend and want credit that was due to be given to our players and his squad and his coaching team, you know, and that's what started the whole thing. But then it created this kind of flavor to our game, which we are now missing. But the rivalry stands. The two clubs, they'll always play that kind of a game. I think the match between TS Galaxy and Sundowns, played on the 21st of May 2024, stood to be the best match of the season last season, to be honest. It had every kind of ingredient you would have wished for as a football-loving person. So this is what we want to see in our football.
In Bernard Parker and Vuyo Mere, you have two players who are transitioning into coaching now. Vuyo has played for 24 years in the PSL. I think it's the longest serving player to have played in the PSL. 24 straight years as a player. How is he transitioning into now becoming a coach?
Yeah, both of them. Maybe the question applies to both Vuyo and Bernard. These are textbook example of professionals, of football professionals in the form of players. You know, they have served the game with distinction. They had trials and challenges during their course in the game, but then they still managed to stand firm and survive all kind of challenges for as many years, 20 years plus. And still be in the game and play the game, you know, look after their bodies, look after themselves, and transition from youngsters to brothers and husbands, you know, and big brothers now. So at TS Galaxy, we're quite fortunate to have this kind of players wanting to serve at our club. So when we brought Vuyo, we were languishing at the rock bottom during the January break in 2022. And we signed one player only, Vuyo Mere. Many said, why are you signing the player? You're at the bottom of the log. You need to sign, you're signing a defender, you need to sign a striker and this and that. I said, I've signed one, and I've signed Vuyo for our change room. Fast track, I think he really brought what we thought he would bring then, and still brings it to this day, you know, the experience and everything else. So he's a quality human being. We want people like that at TS Galaxy. We want leaders who come with the playing experience, and he has that. And so is Bernard, you know, he is also a leader in his own right, very vocal, very strong, has been like that. In our change room, and he's contributed a lot, obviously, up to a point where he got injured. But then now we are both transitioning them into coaching, you know, and probably we're the only club which is doing it to both, two players all at once. And the simple view of our club is that these players cannot just be lost to the game. Really, South African football needs a Vuyo Mere, needs a Bernard Parker. And therefore, as the club that they've served in the later stages of their careers, we had to do whatever that was necessary to ensure that they are being retained. They remain part of the game, and will continue doing so. They will be here for as long as it takes.
And before I let you go, Tim, KwaMhlanga Stadium, Camille Refire, what's the latest?
Well, for all I know is that KwaMhlanga Stadium has been revamped, and it will be reopened, closed again after it was pronounced to have been closed and undergoing renovations. End of May to be reopened end of July. When it was reopened end of July, you saw the dust coming out. It was just a mess. Now it's been closed. Now they're working on it again. So I don't know exactly what is being done. I don't know if the service providers, they know exactly what it needs to be done. If you close a stadium and then for refurbishments, and then you reopen it with the belief that it is ready, then we see dust. That was very disappointing, and I hope now they will try to improve. Because why? Because our people deserve professional football. What happened the first time around when it had undergone refurbishment, they could only refurbish it to a level of an NFD standard. So a PSL club couldn't play there, TS Galaxy couldn't play there. So I hope the work that they're doing now will qualify the stadium to host a PSL game, because that's what our people deserve. So they have a club, but they cannot watch their club there in their own background. So, there's nothing to justify.
So what would it mean for people in KwaNdebele to see Kaizer Chiefs, to see Mamelodi Sundowns, to see Orlando Pirates playing there?
It will mean a lot. Well, first, their own club, TS Galaxy. Their KwaNdebele is TS Galaxy first, and everyone else later. So to see their own club, even better now, when our big sister clubs come by and all that. But our people, as you see, we were in the NFD. We were filling Gamera Stadium to the rafters. It didn't matter whether it was Gabu Moya, whether it was who Stellenbosch were with us in the NFD. It didn't matter then. It won't matter even in the future. Our people love the game, and they deserve to see the football, the highest level football in their own backyard. So the same with Camera Fear. I don't know why it has stopped. I haven't heard of any progress. To me, that's disappointing. But then I've made this call. You may not know. When I had the notion of establishing TS Galaxy in 2015. Before I could even assemble a squad in the 3rd division, I went to the municipality of Tembisile and Dr. Jess Moroka, both in KwaNdebele, to say I'm starting a club for the people of the region and the greater province of Mpumalanga. Please prepare the stadiums. The club will be in the PSL in 5 years' time. So that was in 2015. So how many years later? We're still talking the same thing. From that point of view, it's very disappointing. But of course, administration does change time and again in municipalities. So I'm sure they undergone a number of changes, and that could have stalled some progress. But I think this issue of stadiums should, rank very much high in their own radar screens, such that by now it should be a matter of the past. But yeah, we are where we are, but we can only hope for the best.
Yeah, Tim, good luck this weekend in the curling knockout, and good luck in your battle to survive or move away from the relegation zone. And thanks for being part of this, and we hope to see you soon on this platform. We appreciate you making time for us, and thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Mukwena. It's always our absolute pleasure, to answer your call. Never mind coming here and talking to you.
We'll see you soon on this platform.
Thank you. Cheers.